Who's the dumbest person you've ever met? Around the time I turned 30, 2010, I lost a large amount of weight. While I'd previously always looked my age or older, I suddenly looked to be about 5 to 10 years younger than I actually was. I started hanging out in Allston, an area of Boston known for its nightlife, often with people in their early to mid-20s. There was a guy who also hung out down there who really stood out. I never saw him in the bars, just walking down Brighton Avenue or North Beacon Street, usually carrying a gym bag, always alone. Unlike most understated Bostonians, he dressed in a very Eurotrash sort of way. He had a light olive complexion with smooth skin and dark hair, which he wore slicked back. What I remember most vividly is that every time I saw him he was wearing reflective aviator sunglasses, so I never got a look at his eyes. I thought of him as Aviator Dude. Enjoying my new confidence, I decided to try to befriend Aviator Dude. The first few times I tried to make eye contact, I got exactly zero response. No acknowledgement whatsoever. I suspected he was unfriendly and not interested, but maybe he just didn't see me. I wasn't done trying yet. Finally, one day in early autumn 2010, Aviator Dude and I stood across the street from each other, waiting for a light to change so we could each cross. I decided that this was my chance. As the light changed to the walk signal, I made direct eye contact with him. I gave him a flirty smile. And then I winked at him. I immediately regretted this decision. Aviator Dude stopped dead in his tracks. His jaw dropped a little bit, then his lips hardened into a sneer. I didn't need to see past the aviators to know that his face had twisted with disgust. More than a bit taken aback, I kept walking past him. I looked back at him briefly. Aviator Dude was still standing there, in the middle of the intersection of North Beacon and Cambridge Streets, staring at me with a disgusted look on his face. He shook his head, wrung his hands, and walked on, muttering under his breath. Well, okay, then. About 5 years later, I saw Aviator Dude again, but not in person. In 2015, I was watching the trial of the Boston Marathon bomber, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, online via Twitter, and the news updated in real time. Some of the evidence presented included photographs of Tamerlan Tsarnaev, the older brother who was unalived in a shootout with police. I immediately recognized him. Tamerlan Tsarnaev was an Aviator Dude. Not only was he a radicalized murderer responsible for the worst terrorist attack in Massachusetts history, one of the points brought up repeatedly by the surviving marathon bombing suspect's defense lawyers was that Tamerlan was abusive to those weaker than him, including and especially the women in his life. A domestic violence charge regarding an ex-girlfriend held up his U.S. citizenship application, and his widow's college friends testified that they heard him getting verbally abusive and throwing furniture at her. It has been speculated that the man may also have been responsible for a triple homicide in suburban Waltham in September of 2011, about a year after the events described above. I'm really glad he rejected me.